Okay, I just have 7 more words to ask you, and then I won't annoy you anymore.
Oh, thank God. I thought you would never ask. Sheesh. Just kidding. I don't mind. I like helping you out. Alrighty, woman. What's next?
Let's see. Okay, it's mixed economy. Isn't a mixed economy made of gummy bears?
What? No. No. Focus, woman. Focus. A mixed economy is an economy that combines the free market with limited government involvement. A simple example of this is the United States is a mixed economy. Well, why? Well, we can own our own business. The government controls the mailing system, same with the road system, obviously. American Airlines are private, government controls most of the schools, and the FDA bans certain drugs.
Yeah, I don't think that related to gummy bears at all. Oops. Okay, next is long and short run. Isn't a short one where there is a short period of time to allow change to certain economic conditions?
Yeah, you got it, actually. Can you remember what a long run is?
Yeah, I think I know it. Oh, wait! Okay, I believe a long run is a period of time long enough for all important or choices to be available for decision, correct?
Great job, you got them. But I'll give you an example so it helps. Okay, so if you wanted to build a restaurant, so that would be a long run. But for me to own a restaurant, I obviously need to hire workers. So that right there would be a short run.
Okay, that makes a whole lot more sense now. Gracias, señorita. Okay. I have 2 more that I need examples for. It's fixed costs and variable costs. I know a fixed cost is income that doesn't increase even when price goes up, or expenses that don't change based on production. And a variable cost, I believe, is a cost that rises or falls depending on how much is produced. Is that right?
Yep, you got it, woman. And of course, I can give examples. Okay, with the fixed costs, like you said, expenses don't change based on production. Well, this includes salaries, rent, loan payments, and insurance premiums. While as a variable cost, or expenses or materials need to complete a certain project, some of these things can be raw materials, such as packaging and labor, which is needed to help function a business.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Okay, and the last 2 are marginal cost and subsidy. These 2 always get me.
Okay, yeah, these 2 are pretty confusing. Well, a marginal cost is the cost of producing 1 unit of a good. Okay, I have a pretty easy way of explaining. If producing additional vehicles requires building a new factory. Okay, sorry. It's okay. Okay, the marginal cost of the vehicles includes the cost of the new factory. On the other hand, subsidy and a government payment that supports a business or a market. For example, farming struggles to survive in a competitive international industry with low prices. The government may sometimes give cash to farms to sell at the low market price, but still achieving financial aid. Does that make sense?
Yep, it makes a lot more sense now. Thank you, my darling.
You're welcome.
Okay, now it's your turn to ask me.
What is a positive and normative statement?
Positive and normative. Government-provided health care increases public expenditures is a positive economic statement. Because it can be proved or disapproved by examining healthcare spending and should provide basic health care to all citizens is a normative economic statement. There's no way to prove whether economics should provide health care. And, well, this statement is based on opinions.
Who is Adam Smith?
Adam Smith, one of the first people to offer an explanation of how a market economy works, was the Scottish Scottish philosopher Oliver Smith. Beginning in his early 20s, Smith enjoyed a long career teaching at universities in Scotland. Although more than a little absent-minded, Smith was adored by his students and respected by his fellow professors. More importantly, his ideas won him fame and influence all across Britain.
What's specialization?
Specialization is the concentration of the productive efforts of individuals and firms on a limited number of activities. Specialization leads to the efficient use of resources, including capital, labor, and land. A nurse specializes in caring for the sick. A baker specializes in breads, cakes, and cookies.
What is absolute advantage?
Absolute advantage. I feel like serious creeper there. Is where it can be produced more of a given product using Michael Jordan as an absolute advantage at basketball. For all I know, Michael Jordan may also be the fastest typist in the world, giving him an absolute advantage in typing too. Since he's better at typing than you can't he type more cheaply than you?
What's a comparative advantage?
Comparative advantage is the product that can produce more efficiently given all the products it could choose to produce. That's so weird. Oranges, for example, are grown at a lower cost in Florida than in Iowa. For example, while Iowa excels in producing corn, Floridians and Iowans share gains from exchange according to a comparative advantage by trading Florida's oranges for Iowa's corn. Similar gains are realized when Americans trade with foreigners. Efficiency requires using all the world's resources in the relatively most productive ways.
Thinking at the margin.
Thinking at the margin. Deciding whether to do or use one additional of a unit of some resource. You might picture a piece of paper with a line drawn down the left side. What is it? That line separates the space used for writing extra space on the paper. You could use some of that extra space, or you could leave a blank. Thinking at the margin means you're thinking about using one additional unit.
What is incentives?
Incentives. An expectation that encourages people to behave in a certain way. Say, a manufacturer for shirts, the manufacturing finds that striped shirts are outselling polka dot shirts. The manufacturer has the incentive from more potential sales and profits to produce striped shirts.
Externality. What is it?
Externality. The economic side effect of a good or service that generates benefits or cost to someone other than the person decided how much to produce or consume. Externalities can be both positive or negative.
What is firm?
A firm is an organization that uses resources to produce a product, which it then sells. Firms transform inputs or factors of production into outputs or products.
What is socialism?
Socialism is a social and political philosophy based on belief that democratic means should be used to distribute wealth throughout the society.
Communism!
Well, communism is a centrally planned economy with all economic and political power resting in the hands of the central government. Communists believed that a socialist society can only come about after a violent revolution.
Shifts in supply and demand.
Shifts in supply and demand. Demand is the desire, willingness, and ability to buy a goods or service, while as supply quantities of a good or service that producers are willing to sell at all possible market prices. The forces of supply and demand work together in markets to establish prices. In our economy, prices form the basis of economic decisions.
Who is laissez-faire?
Laissez-faire is a doctrine that states that government generally should not intervene in a marketplace. The policy known as laissez-faire, which means let them do as they please.
Privatize.
To sell state. Run firms to individuals. Sometimes they are allowed to compete with one another in the marketplace.
Consumer sovereignty.
Consumer sovereignty. The power of consumers to decide what gets produced. Free markets offer a wide variety of goods and services than any other system because producers have incentives to meet consumers' desires. Consumers decide what gets produced.
What is regulation?
Regulation. Government intervention in a market that affects the production of a good. For years, pollution has harmed the environment. For years, government has been thinking of a lead fuel for cars. Regulations such as these increased the cost of manufacturing cars and reduced the supply.
What is price ceiling?
Price ceiling. A minimum price for a good or service. For example, some areas have rent ceilings to protect renters from climbing rent prices.
Excise tax.
Excise tax. A tax on the production or sale of a good. Excise taxes are sometimes used to discourage the sales of a good that the government thinks are harmful to the public good, like cigarettes, alcohol, and high-pollutant gasoline. Any increase in cost in excise tax causes the supply of a good to decrease in price levels.
Price floor!
A price floor! A minimum price for a good or service. An example of a price floor is in the U.S., the minimum wage laws. The government has set the minimum wage laws that a company can pay an employee.
What is rent control?
A rent control. a price ceiling placed on rent. For example, rent controls reduces the quantity and quality of housing. So it helps some households but harms others, including many poor households.
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage! A minimum price that an employer can pay a worker for an hour of labor. The federal government sets a base law level for minimum wage. And states can set their own minimum wages even higher.
Black market. Ah.
A black market. A market in which goods are sold illegally. Black markets allow consumers to pay more so they can buy a good when rationing makes it otherwise unavailable.